All right, so in this video, we're going to learn how to use this standard normal table. We've got a z-score for a certain data value. We want to be able to use the z-score in this table to determine the proportion of values, okay, or the percentage of values that are above or below that z-score, okay? We'll also use it to determine the proportion or percentage of values between two z-scores, okay? So let's go to our worksheet here. Oh, is that the wrong one? Yeah, that's the right one. Okay. So we want to find the cumulative area that corresponds to a z-score that is less than 2.71, okay? So the first thing we want to do is kind of understand what the area is going to look like, okay? So you can see with this, our mean is right here in the middle, a positive z-score of 2.71. We're almost 3 deviations above the mean, okay? So if we're talking about the area less than 2.71, we're talking about a lot of area here, okay? So let's go to the table and we're going to learn how to find where 2.71 is on that table, okay? So the first page of your table has all the negative z-scores, okay? So let's go on to page 2 and let's scroll down to where we see 2.7, okay? So 2.7 is right here. Let me zoom out just a little bit, see if I can see everything I need. Okay, so 2.7 is right here. Okay, so let me highlight that. Okay, now across the top, this would be 2.70 and this would be 2.71. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to see where this column and this row intersect, and that's going to give me the proportion. Okay, so the proportion that corresponds to a z-score of 2.71 is 0.9966, okay? So let's go back to our Word document here, and our proportion is going to be 0.9966, and we got that directly from the table, okay? Now we can convert that to a percentage just by moving the decimal place 2 times to the right. So about 99.66% of all values in this data set would have a z-score of less than 2.71, okay? All right, now then, what about the cumulative area that corresponds to a z-score greater than 2.71? All right, so it would kind of be the complement of this graph, or this chart. We're talking about this very small percentage right here in red, okay? So we're from the z-score of 2.71 to the right, okay? We're still using this proportion. Remember, the entire percentage, or the entire proportion underneath the density curve here, or the standard normal curve, is 1, so we're just going to subtract the value we found earlier from 1. So 1 minus 0.9966, again, the proportion that corresponds to 2.71, and we're going to subtract those two, and that gives us 0.0034. Okay, so basically 0, okay? Because percentage-wise, we're talking about less than 1%, a third of 1% almost of the values would have a z-score greater than 2.71, okay? Let's use a negative z-score now. Okay? We want to find the cumulative area that corresponds to a z-score that is less than negative 0.25. All right, so let's draw our standard normal curve and shade in the area that we want to see. So the mean, again, would be right here in the middle, so we're just to the left of the mean. So we know this is going to be less than 50%, but it shouldn't be much less than 50%. All right, so let's go back to the table and let's find negative 0.25. All right, so let's go back to the top here. Okay, and I want negative 0.25. So I'm going to be right here, negative 0.2. Okay, and I can't see everything, but we know this is negative 2.0 or 0.20, negative 0.21, negative 0.22, 0.23, 0.24, and 0.25. Okay, notice this is a 5 in the 100ths place. So we're at negative 0.25. That column and that row intersect with a proportion of 0.4013. Okay, so let's go back to our document here. All right, so our proportion should be 0.4013. Okay, again, we said it would be a little less than half, a little less than 50%, and it's actually 40.13%. Okay, now the cumulative area that's greater than that z-score of negative 0.25. All right, We want the shaded in area, so it's going to be from that z-score to the right. So again, we're going to be above half or above 50%. So I'm going to subtract this value from 1, and that's going to give me 0.5987, okay? As a percentage, again, move the decimal place 2 times to the right, and that gives me 59.87%. All right, and finally, let's find the cumulative area between the z-scores of negative 0.25 and 2.71. All right, so we want to go back. We're going to use this value because that's the proportion of values less than 2.71. We're going to use this value, which is the percentage or proportion of scores less than negative 0.25. Okay, so we're going to use those two values. Our drawing would look like this. We're from a z-score of negative 0.25 to 2.71 here. Okay, and remember we're going to use those proportions we found earlier, 0.9966 and 0.4013. Okay, we're going to subtract those two. Again, from here down was 0.9966. From here down was 0.4013. So to find this shaded in area here, we're going to subtract those two values. Okay, so the total proportion here between a z-score of negative 0.25 and 2.71 would be 0.5953, which gives us a percentage of 59.53%. Okay, so that's how you use z-scores and the standard normal table to determine proportions and percentages of values in a data set.